right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to begin with the expedited accusation calendar with the State Court of Fulton County for today, October 2nd, 2024 at 2 p.m. This is a list of misdemeanor cases in which individuals who were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail, their cases have now been formally accused. So when I call a defendant, I will let you know what is your new accusation number, what are the charges brought against you, to appoint counsel for you if necessary, to set a bond, and also to provide you with a court date if required. If you are a defendant who is charged with a misdemeanor offense or offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything that you choose to discuss during the course of this live proceedings, these virtual proceedings that are not only being recorded but live streamed, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. As indicated, one of the issues I will have to address is what type of bond to grant the defendant and how much. I typically look at their criminal record history, if there is one, the allegations set forth in the record, and the arguments of the prosecutor as well as defense counsel. Some of you may qualify for what we call a signature bond, in which the individual will receive a bond and they do not have to pay for it today, but they would have to comply with the conditions of the bond. Failure to comply, including getting arrested again, will result in your signature bond being revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. Others may not qualify for a signature bond, and you will receive either a surety bond or a cash bond. In that particular case, you would have to either pay for your bond out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. Certain conditions may also attach to that bond. For individuals who receive a cash or surety bond, or if you have other cases holding you at the jail, you will receive a new court date, and that will be October 15th, 2024 at 9 a.m. This next criminal proceeding on October 15th will also be done virtually. So for those who are attending, please make sure you get the Zoom link. For the individuals who just joined us at Fulton County ACDC, I'd just like to remind the individuals there that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say during the course of this recorded and live stream virtual proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Your Honor.
Yes,
Your Honor. I'm sorry, officer. I got a late note here from Mr. McLean that he needs a Spanish interpreter for Mr. Pro Caro. I can't tell you where Mr. McLean is. I would never vouch for his whereabouts. But if somebody can help me out on that, that was about 5 minutes.
Mr. McLean, on position 10, you will need a Spanish interpreter.
I think I hear the judge calling me. Excuse me, let me put you on hold for a sec. Hi, Judge.
Hello, Mr. McLean. You need a Spanish interpreter for position 10?
Yes, Your Honor. English is pretty darn good, but he nonetheless would feel more comfortable with an interpreter, and I can't disagree with him on that.
All right, Miss Champion, if you can see if we can procure a Spanish interpreter this afternoon, that would be excellent.
Yes, ma'am. We should have one signing on shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If the state could chat to me what their proposal is on bond on that, I understand his employer is going to try to help, and that may obviate the whole problem.
Okay. In the meantime, the individuals who are not attorneys, individuals who are alleged victims, who are witnesses, family members in support of any of the defendants today, please mute your screen and switch off your video. I will let you start your video and speak when the defendant whom you're interested in addressing is being called to the floor. All right? Okay, courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Position number 9, Ms.
Thank you.
That's my case, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. This is Claire McLean, accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property in a family violence context. Ms. McLean, you have been advised of your rights. Your case number is 24 CR 6797Y. And Mr. Howard?
It's the first.
Okay. Ms. Desiano?
That's my case, Your Honor. Good
Oh,
morning.
okay.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Ms. Allen?
This is an incident that occurred yesterday, October the 1st at about 11 p.m. Police were called to 9995 Old Dogwood Road in Roswell. Dispatch actually reported that the 911 call was made by a female, I believe the defendant, and in the background they could hear a male voice yelling, "Stop, stop." On scene, Jordan McLean, the victim in this case, reported that the defendant had taken his cell phone and smashed it on the ground, completely shattering it. They lived together, Your Honor. On scene, officers see personal belongings all over the ground outside. The defendant told police she was moving to a different bedroom for the night. The victim reported that he got home from work at 6 p.m. The defendant was upset because she found out he was dating someone else and she became verbally abusive. She then grabbed his cell phone, which was sitting next to the bed being charged, and intentionally smashed it. The defendant made admissions to this. So she's got no criminal history, Your Honor. We'd ask for a $1,000 SOB through pretrial, no contact with Mr. Jordan McLean, to stay away from the location. Obviously, she needs a one-time escort, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you.
Jordan McLean, if you're on Zoom, this is the time to unmute or start your video. All right, Mr. McLean, no relation, right?
No relationship, different spelling as it turns out. It's not spelled like it was on the assignment sheet, but rather like on the warrant.
Okay.
In terms of stay away, is this a hotel room and who's renting it? Do we know anything about that?
I don't know, Mr. McLean. Did you consult with your client?
Yes. My understanding is that perhaps she could stay there or she could move in with her mom, one or the other. We have no objection to the signature bond, but any convenience details on where to stay could be worked out. But it's just a matter of, should she get the hotel room or should he? I don't have a strong opinion.
Just one second. Okay. She's going to have to leave the hotel, the location.
She can stay with mom.
All right. Miss Claire McLean, your bond is going to be set at $1,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services level 1. You would have to vacate the hotel premises. I'll let you go there one time only with a police officer to remove your belongings. And then after that, you will need to update the court with your new mailing address or your mother's address if that's where you're staying, within 30 days of being released. You're to report to pretrial once a month, attend one anger awareness class, and have no contact with Jordan McLean. Do you understand?
Please.
You are to stay 200 yards away from Mr. Jordan McLean and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. Your next court date will be sent to your new mailing address, so make sure we have it. Thank you.
ACDC can go ahead.
Thank you. Officer Frost, Principal? Okay, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Judge Law, and thank you, courtroom 2. This is going to be position number 2, Ms. Bryant.
All right. Miss Mariah Bryant is accused of battery family violence from September 13th of this year. The accusation is 24 CR 6792F. Miss Bryant, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook, Mr. McLean, somebody else? Mr. Cook, could you unmute? Is that you?
That's me, Your Honor.
All right. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
No.
Mr. Howard, please unmute.
No.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Desiano?
Good afternoon, Judge. This incident took place on September 13th. The incident location is 2788 DeForest Ferry Road. Both parties actually went to the police on separate occasions to report an incident that had happened on this date. Both parties claimed to be assaulted by the other. The victim in this case is Joshua Smith. He lived with the defendant. However, it's my understanding he has since moved out since this incident. He reported that he was smoking in the house when the defendant came up and smacked the cigar or cigarette, whatever, from his mouth. And when he then pushed her in self-defense and the parties started physically fighting at that point, the police did determine that the defendant was the primary aggressor of this incident, and noted that the victim's injuries were far more severe than injuries to the defendant. The victim had bruising on his body. He had several bite marks on his hand, shoulder, back, and arm. And he also told police that the defendant punched him in the face. We've been in touch with Mr. Smith today. He states that this is not the first time the defendant's been violent with him. This is the first time the police have been involved. He has since left the residence. However, I'm not sure this needs to be in the order, but he does have belongings at that location that he still needs to retrieve through a law enforcement escort. He's filed for a TPO after this incident, and that was granted. He's obviously asking for no contact. We're requesting a SOB through pretrial, no further contact, anger awareness courses, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And if Your Honor can sound for Mr. Smith, thank you.
I see a Josh Smith. Is that you, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Smith, if you'd like to address this case, you would need to be placed under oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you've vacated the premises at DeForest Parkway, I think, or Road?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what kind of belongings do you have, and how long will it take you to remove them?
Honestly, I'm willing to part ways with my belongings. I really want to move forward with my life and leave this situation in the past.
All right, so under oath, you're saying you're done with your stuff and you're not going back. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cook, it's going to be a signature bond through pretrial, no contact, but she can return to the property. Any objection?
No objection to that, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Bryant, your bond is going to be 2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. You may return to the residence in question, but you have to have no further contact with Joshua Smith, which means to stay 200 yards away from him. Do not communicate with him either directly or indirectly through a third person, mail, email, phones. You can't even discuss him on social media. And you can't even try to reach out to a third party to try to reach him. And if you violate that condition, Mr. Smith simply has to report that to the solicitor's office, and your bond could be revoked, and you could end up spending the rest of the time in jail. No alcohol, no drugs, no illegal drugs, and no firearms. And your next court date will be sent to your 2788 DeForest location. If you change addresses, please make sure that the court clerk's office is the first place to find out about your new address in writing. Thank you. Miss Lucia is present for our interpreter case. Mr. McLean.
Miss Lucia?
Yeah, I see her. She's signed on. Courtroom 2 is Mr. Procoro available?
They go in the courtroom 1, stand by.
Okay, very good.
All right. So in the meantime, ACDC, who's your next case? Francois?
Position 6, Howard.
Okay. Lily Janae Howard is accused of battery family violence from September 10th, 2024, under accusation 24 CR 6799B. Ms. Howard, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Fifth arrest, 2009. It says phone damage line and assault on family member out of Virginia. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Desiano?
Your Honor, this incident took place September 10th. Officers were dispatched to 3588 Hamlin Square Southwest regarding a dispute. The victim in this case is Lee Bush. She told officers that she got into a physical fight with her ex-girlfriend that started over a verbal argument regarding a necklace. She advised that the defendant pushed her against the wall and then grabbed her by the face, causing lacerations to her right eye and upper lip. The defendant fled the scene prior to police arrival, and the police also noted that the lacerations were bleeding. Miss Bush has been in contact with our office today, and she has apparently changed her position. She says that she does not remember this incident. She has no recollection of it. She was extremely drunk. She said that she actually went back and looked at her cameras from the incident and saw that she fell into a basket of clothes. She states that the defendant has never been violent with her before. She states that they've been living together since this incident and there's been no violence since. She's not in fear and would like to continue contact and would like for the defendant to return to the residence. Your Honor, the concern here is that these parties actually had a TPO at the time of this incident. The victim, I expect, will testify that there's been no violence. However, there was a TPO that was granted by Judge Manning that was active from June 17th, 2024, and was set to expire June 16th, 2025. Yesterday, it's my understanding the victim petitioned the court to have that TPO set aside, and that was granted. So there's no longer a TPO in place. However, that TPO does allege that at some point back in April that the defendant killed the victim's dog and also strangled her in front of her children. Of course, there was no arrest related to that. So we would ask for no contact in light of that. And we'd also ask for a signature bond, a stay away, anger awareness course, and no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And Your Honor, I believe Ms. Bush is on the line and probably wants to say something. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lee Bush, if you'd like to contribute to the proceedings, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. What would you like to tell us?
As far as the TPO, I filed for a set aside motion back in August, later into August. It was reset twice, so that was the only reason that it just happened to fall yesterday.
When you filed it, when you filed it, had you already had the hearing since then?
Yes, ma'am.
And when was the hearing?
I can't remember offhand. Hold on, I could check my email and find out.
And when was the TPO set aside by court order?
The last court date, the final one was yesterday.
What's the case number? 24 CV.
Yes, ma'am.
24 CV 006746, Your Honor, and we've been in touch with Judge Manning's office. It's my understanding it was dismissed yesterday. However, I'm not sure that it's updated in Odyssey.
I'm sorry. I filed it on June 17th, 2024.
Ms. Bush,
It is right.
I just want to know, when was the TPO set aside? Do you agree that it was set aside yesterday, October 1st, 2024?
Yes, ma'am. The final hearing, yes, ma'am.
And this alleged incident occurred on September 10th, 2024.
Correct.
All right. Anything else to add, Ms. Bush? Lay Bush, that is.
Yes, ma'am.
What would you like to add?
So that night, my mother was taken away. She went to stay at home because she had dementia. I was very emotionally drained. I had way too much more than I should have had. At some point during the night, I blacked out. I do remember being very irate and uncontrollable. I don't remember anything else until the next day. The next afternoon, my daughter came to my house and she was like, "Mom, do you remember anything that you did?" And this, that, and the third. And she started telling me what happened, which prompted me to then go to my cameras and check my cameras to see, because we have cameras in the house, but they're still by still on 10-second rotations. So I bagged them up and the video didn't show her attacking me. It showed me walking towards her, trying to step over a basket that had clothes and hangers in it. And like I told them, then the next screen was me in the basket. The next screen, 2 screens after that, was my children. I'm sorry, my daughter, her boyfriend, and Miss Howard picking me up and taking me to the bedroom to go to bed.
What is
At some point,
what is the time date stamp on that video?
It's on the laptop. Hold on.
Did it occur on or about September 10th of this year?
Yes, ma'am. It was in the evening,
All right.
before 9 o'clock. But then
Okay.
the next movement on my cameras was after midnight when the police officer came to the door. So at some point I woke up. I went outside. The cameras just showed that I walked to his car. He got out to ring the doorbell. I walked outside to his car. He never got out his car again, and then he pulled off.
Okay.
I don't
So
remember what was said.
that's
I didn't
fine. I'm sure the prosecution will be able to get the officer's body cam if there's one. All right. Thank you. Mr. Cook, anything else to add?
No, I just, I mean, I would place a considerable weight on the alleged victim's comments. Beyond that, my client is 49 years old. She's been employed by Yamaha Productions for 3 years. I don't remember what pretrial said, but she certainly doesn't have any remarkable record, as I recall. We would be looking for a signature bond through pretrial, unless, let's see, it's a battery. I'm not sure about the restrictions there. If it could be through the jail, that would be fine. I would leave the any no contact provision to the court, but we would prefer no further violent contact and allow her to go back to well, actually she lives at 3555 Hamlin Square now, so I don't know that the actual location now is a particular importance.
Oh, with regards to Lily Howard, the bond is going to be set at $2,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. Ms. Howard, you will have to report to pretrial once a month. You are to have no further violent contact with Leigh Bush. And just FYI, I don't take kindly to the situation when there was an existing protective order against you and you are at the victim's property during the term of the order. The only time that you can have contact with the victim was when the protective order was set aside, which meant that you could not have any contact with the victim until after the order was signed and filed yesterday. So this alleged incident occurred during your violation of the protective order, but I'll let Superior Court deal with that. But in the meantime, while you are out on a signature bond, within 30 days of being released, you shall enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. This is a series of 24 weeks of classes. You will attend each class every week at your expense, and you will provide your pretrial officer by your second visit of proof of enrollment, and then by the end of the 24 weeks of classes, proof of completion of those classes. In the meantime, there shall be no alcohol, no illegal drugs being consumed by you, and you're not allowed to own or possess any firearms. Your next court date will be sent to your address. I'm assuming it's going to be Hamlin Square. If it's not, please update the court with your mailing address within 30 days of being released. Thank you. All right, courtroom 1. I don't see them on Zoom yet, so.
We're gonna do position number 4.
Your Honor, they're already in the breakout room.
Okay, thank you. Position number 4. This is State versus Travian Tay Lamorris Fleetwood. accused of battery family violence from August 3rd, 2024, case number 24CR6794Y. Mr. Fleetwood, you have been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Keith Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Blunt, you got a felony amount?
Yup.
What was it? No bond? Zero
Zero.
bond? Okay.
There was a no bond?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
thank
what
you.
you mean.
Fifth adult arrest, 2024 ag assault, 24 PI 003616. Criminal damage to property, entering auto, theft by taking, 23 CP 219348. On probation for 24 SC 002093. Unlawful for a person to participate criminal street gang.
Okay,
And got a probation hold too.
all right, thank you. Ms. Desiano?
And Your Honor, the felony case from this morning is a battery, family violence, and felon in possession of a firearm as it relates to the same victim. This incident took place on August 3rd at 875 Hank Aaron Drive, Unit 620. The victim is Jemiah Colsey. She and the defendant have a child together. The victim stated that she and the defendant were arguing. He was holding the baby in what she felt was a dangerous way. She was trying to get the baby from him. He pushed her away and threatened to fight her. And at that point, the defendant put the baby down somewhere and started a physical fight with the victim. That was eventually broken up by one of the parties' mothers. The victim had bald spots on her head where the defendant had ripped out her braids. And then 10 days later, the felony incident, he's accused of biting her, pulling more braids out of her head. And at some point he had a firearm, which is the basis for the felony charge. We've not been in touch with her today, Your Honor. We're asking for a $2,500 surety bond, no further contact, stay away. We are also asking for FFIB at this time, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And if Your Honor can sound for Miss Jemiah Colsey.
Ms. Jemiah Colsey? If you... no, I hear crickets. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 19 years old. He's been working at Publix for the last 6 months. They do share a child, 7 months. Given the information we've just received from Superior Court, I'm going to leave the rest of it to the discretion of the court. I suspect, I'm not even going to ask for a third-party transfer. I don't think it's going anywhere, and I don't think there's been a legitimation, so I'll leave the rest of it to the court. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cook. It's a $2,500 surety bond, no contact with Ms. Jemiah, to stay away from the incident location, which is 875 Hank Aaron Drive. It's he's got a different address, so is this their residence?
Well,
I don't believe they live together, Your Honor.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I think she lives with one of her parents, is my understanding.
That's
All
my
right,
understanding too, Your Honor.
All right, so he needs to stay away from 875 Hank Aaron Drive, the entire location, including Unit 620. Have no contact with Jemiah Colsey, have no contact with the children that he shares with her. If he intends to have any kind of joint visitation or custody, he would need to file a separate legitimation suit. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and definitely no firearms. His next court date is going to be October 15th. Thank you. All right, courtroom 1, we have position number 10, and that would be Mr. Casimiro or Miro Procoro, case number 20. Oh, sorry, Ms. Lucia. May I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you translate will be a true and correct translation with no changes or embellishments?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Casimiro Procoro is case number is 24CR 6805A.
Estamos llamando el caso del señor Casimiro Procorro. El número del caso es 24CR006805A.
Mr. Procoro, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you say during the course of this proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you.
Señor Procoro, usted tiene el derecho de permanecer en silencio durante esta audiencia. todo lo que usted diga podría ser y será usado en contra suyo.
You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you, and presently you are represented by Mr. Michael McLean.
Usted tiene derecho a un abogado. Si no puede costear un abogado, un abogado se le se le hará disponible para la audiencia del día de hoy. Y en este momento su abogado es el señor Mike McLean.
You are charged with 3 misdemeanor offenses allegedly occurring on September 29, 2024.
Usted está siendo acusado con 3 delitos menores que alegadamente ocurrieron el 29 de septiembre del 2024.
One of the charges is public drunk.
Una de las acusaciones es de embriaguez pública.
And Mr. McLean, have you shared the type of charges for counts 1 and 3 with your client?
Yes.
Ms. Lucia?
Y también su abogado ha hablado con usted sobre el primero y el tercer cargo.
So Mr. Procoro is familiar with the 3 charges brought against him.
Entonces, señor Procoro, ¿usted conoce las 3 acusaciones que han sido puestas en contra suyo?
Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Howard, does he have a prior history?
Third arrest, 2008 alien inadmissibility. That's all.
Y este es están pidiendo antecedentes. Este es su tercer arresto en el 2008, uno por ser un alien no registrado y no legalmente aquí.
All right, Miss Allen, as you know, I'm going to waive sounding on these charges. And I've already read the warrant. There was only 1 warrant, but I understand the state has now 3 charges stemming from that 1 warrant.
Yes.
Y la fiscalía la juez no va a decir todas sus acusaciones en voz alta, pero la fiscalía ha puesto en conjunto estas 3 acusaciones.
And we're going to refer to the victim as GH.
Y nos vamos a referir a la víctima con las iniciales GH.
Your Honor, this is an incident that occurred on September the 29th at 1 a.m.
Su señoría, este es un incidente que ocurrió el 29 de septiembre a la 1 de la mañana.
Police were called to the location at 3887, Washington Road.
Y la policía fue llamada a la ubicación en el 7387 de Washington Road.
I believe this is a Kroger.
De lo que pensamos es un Kroger.
No, it's Washington Food Mart.
A food mart.
Convenience store.
A grocery store, convenience store. There, police met with the victim and her witness. Both of them are teenagers. We'll refer to the victim as GH.
Ahí es cuando la policía se conoció a la víctima, que nos vamos a referir como GH, y a su amiga. Ambas son adolescentes.
One of the clerks at the location was also spoken with.
También se habló con una de las personas que atendían la tienda.
The victim reported that while standing next to the door, she was assaulted by the defendant.
La víctima reportó que mientras estaba parada al lado de la puerta, ella fue asaltada por el acusado.
The defendant spoke to police and reported that he works at the store and the 2 ladies were shoplifting.
Lo que le dije el acusado a la policía es que el acusado trabaja en la tienda y que las 2 chicas estaban robando.
The clerk at the store reported that she had just checked the women out and that they'd paid for their purchases. There was no shoplifting going on.
Sin embargo, la cajera en la tienda indicó que las 2 muchachas habían pagado por su compra y no había ningún robo.
The defendant reported that he worked at the location.
El acusado indicó que él trabaja en esa ubicación.
But the documents also state that he was in possession of an open container and appeared to be intoxicated at the time.
Los documentos también indican que aparentemente él tenía una lata o un contenedor abierto y que parecía intoxicado en ese momento.
We've been in touch with one of the witnesses in this case and are waiting to confirm information from the victim herself.
Hemos estado en contacto con uno de los testigos en este caso y estamos esperando confirmar con la víctima en sí.
My review of the criminal history reports a 2017 removal as well of the defendant.
Mi historial o mi conocimiento de los antecedentes del acusado indican que fue removido en el 2017.
The state would be asking for a $3,000 surety in order to stay away from the location and have no contact with the victim and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Thank you.
La fiscalía está buscando un bono de fianza de $3,000, una orden de mantenerse lejos de la ubicación y no contacto con la víctima.
And if you could sound for victim or family member Heath. Thank you.
Family member Heath?
That's the last name. So this is an underage young woman. It would be her family member, her mother.
Okay. Anyone with the last name Heath, if you'd like to contribute to the proceeding, this will be the time. All right, Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, no objection except to the condition of staying away from the location. His employer is going to make his bond, and it would be appropriate for him to continue working there because he needs to be able to pay his employer back, I'm sure, for the favor.
Y su abogado defensor no tiene objeción a ninguna de las reglas puestas, excepto la orden de permanecer lejos, ya que su empleador es el que va a poner la fianza. Lo más seguro es que él quiera que usted regrese a trabajar ahí para que pueda pagar su fianza.
The bond is going to be set as recommended. It's going to be a $1,000 on each count. That's a $3,000 surety bond.
La fianza está hecha de la siguiente manera: $1,000 asegurados por cada cargo. Eso es un total de $3,000 de fianza asegurados.
No further contact with GH.
Ningún contacto futuro con GH.
And no further contact with customers under the age of 16.
Y ningún contacto en el futuro con clientes menores de 16 años de edad.
No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no firearms.
No puede tener drogas ilegales, bebidas alcohólicas o armas de fuego.
And his work hours are going to be anytime between 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Y el horario de su trabajo va a tener que ser entre las horas de 6 de la mañana y 6 de la tarde.
If his employer wishes to retain his services at the store, he would need to make sure that his work hours are specifically between 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. only.
Si su empleador va a necesitar que usted permanezca trabajando en la tienda, sus servicios, entonces va a tener la orden judicial es que sea en un horario entre las 6 de la mañana y 6 de la tarde únicamente.
Thank you. Oh, next court date is October 15, sorry.
Y la próxima fecha de corte es el 15 de octubre.
Very good.
All right.
Your Honor, I believe that is all for me. If that is it, may I please be excused?
Yes, Ms. Lucia. I believe that's counsel, Mr. McLean, Mr. Cook, anyone? Do any of you require the assistance of a Spanish interpreter?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right.
That's-
Thank you, Ms. Lucia. You have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. You too.
Okay, next case, please. Have we concluded with ACDC? I can do courtroom 2 while we're waiting. Who do we have?
Number 5.
This is Dexter Flowers, accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property, criminal trespass, and 1 count of stalking. The accusation is 24 CR 6802G. Alleged incident date is May 10th, 2024. Mr. Flowers, you've been advised of your right to remain silent and to counsel. Your attorney will be Mr. Cook.
Yes.
And any priors, Mr. Howard?
25. Last was 2023 suspended license. 2021 probation, 2020 simple battery trespass conviction, 2015 possession of tools conviction. That's all.
Miss Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This case occurred on May the 10th, 2024, between 1 and 3 a.m. Police were called to 2417 Perry Boulevard Northwest on a report of property damage. On scene, they spoke to the victim. Her name is Yolanda Pickett, Pickett. On scene, the police observed a tall ladder up against the outside of this residence there on Perry Boulevard. On the third floor, the window into the kitchen had been broken and there was blood seen on the window. Mrs. Pickett reported that her estranged husband, she had petitioned for a divorce in 2022, but was unable to serve him. And that divorce was dismissed. And that he had seen her, followed her home, called her incessantly, and then put the ladder against the side of the house, broke the window and made entry into the location and began banging on the door where she was hiding in a bedroom with her child, demanding that she talk to him. We spoke to the victim, Your Honor, and I also pulled the petition for a TPO she filed immediately after this incident, which details that the defendant actually picked the lock to that bedroom door and refused to leave. She reports that he's been at the location watching her since then. She's actually filed multiple protective orders against the defendant in the past. And he has told her he's going to contact her until they're divorced. She reports being afraid for her safety and the safety of her child. I believe the defendant was served with the current TPO in custody yesterday, Your Honor. Of note, this gentleman has recent convictions for violence against other women that include breaking into their residences and assaulting them. That would be 2 cases from 2020 here in Fulton County against a different victim. Your Honor, the state would argue that you've just heard probable cause that would support a burglary charge, honestly. But here we are in front of you on 3 counts that are misdemeanors. Based on what you've heard today and the information just in the criminal history and the fear of this victim, we're asking for a $6,000 cash bond. Absolutely no contact with the victim in this case, Your Honor. Again, her name is Yolanda Pickett. To stay away from that location or wherever she may reside or work, and have no contact with her children either, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. We'd also ask for an ankle monitor, Your Honor, to be paid for by the defendant at his expense. His most recent arrest for domestic violence was in 2020. He had 4 different cases against a woman. They did involve kicking in the residence and assaulting her on 3 different occasions that resulted in 4 different cases and 3 different convictions, dragging her outside by her hair that was witnessed by someone else. He's got a prior case where he pled guilty to simple battery NOLO against a woman named Latasha Kirkland, as well as victim Christy Gardner, battery family violence, where we were unable to move forward because she wasn't present in court on the day of his trial. There's a substantial risk to reoffend, Your Honor. This is a pattern of behavior. In his 2016 case against Christy Gardner, I believe what was significant about that case was that in front of police, he reported that he trains his women how to behave. He doesn't have to beat them because he's trained them how to behave. I'm sure a prosecutor was very excited to move forward with that case and was sad when they weren't able to. But what you're looking at is a power of behavior, and that shows terrorizing, controlling. There is a substantial risk to the victim and her child. So that's the reason for our argument, Your Honor. The Ayala factors here raise an alarming issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Yolanda Pickett, if you want to contribute to this proceeding, this is the time to unmute and start your video, or you can decide not to say anything. And then you have the absolute right to keep your video and your sound off. Mr. Cook, anything else to add?
Your Honor, just these 37, his income is nil, so a cash bond of any kind would be essentially a no bond. We understand the background. We understand that, but just to inform the court that that's his situation. So, and also the cost of the ankle monitor would be almost prohibitive, but again, we would leave it up to the discretion of the court. Thank you.
On the criminal trespass causing damage to property, that's going to be 2,000. The criminal trespass is 1,000, and the misdemeanor stalking is 3,000. That's a total of $6,000 surety bond. No further contact with Yolanda Pickett and any children that he may share with her. He's to stay 500 yards away from 2417 Perry Boulevard in Atlanta, Georgia. Before being released from the Fulton County Jail, he shall be equipped with an ankle monitor, and the monitoring fees shall be paid for by Mr. Flowers. The ankle monitor shall be installed on Mr. Flowers for a period of 12 months from the time that he's released, and he must continue to pay his monitoring fees. Skipping 2 consecutive monitoring fees, 2 months of monitoring fees, will result in his bond being revoked. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Thank you. Our next court date is October 15th.
Position number 8.
Brenda Mathis is accused of battery and simple battery against an officer under accusation 24 CR 6798D. Ms. Mathis, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
23 total. Last arrest was last year. Simple battery, disorderly conduct, terrorist threats, obstruction, 2 counts. 1 count felony obstruction. Simple battery against police. 23 CP 224547. Hold on. She's out on pretrial, so that's about to be a surrender for that. On probation and call for DUI. On probation in Coweta, terrorist threats, disorderly conduct. She just got put on probation for that back in February. 2015 ag assault, trespass conviction.
Thank you. Miss.
It's my case, Judge.
Yeah, Miss Daciana.
This incident happened September 29th at the Motel 6 by the airport, 1377 Virginia Avenue. The defendant actually called the police. When they arrived, she was very disorderly and irate. She was stating that the victim wasn't allowed to be in her room. She wasn't very cooperative, and they immediately detained her. The victim in this case is Psalms Williams. He stated he arrived back at the hotel room that evening. He had a smoke. He went up to the room, and an argument started about him leaving. And the defendant struck him. The victim had a busted lip and scratches on his hand. The officer also checked with the hotel and was told that the victim had asked the hotel to give the defendant asked for the victim to have a key to her room as an invited guest. The defendant was arrested, and when she was being transferred to her holding cell, she kicked the officer's back of the leg and told her that she was a bitch for locking her up. She does have several similar open cases, Your Honor. The state's requesting a $3,000 surety bond, broken down, $2,000 on the battery, $1,000 on the simple battery, a stay away from the hotel, no further contact with Mr. Williams, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And if Your Honor can sound for Mr. Williams and Officer Stewart, thank you.
All right, Mr. Williams or Officer Stewart, if you are involved in the case with Brenda Mathis, this is the time to speak up. All right. Mr. McLean, excuse me.
Your Honor, she has local family. She is local. If Your Honor feels it's necessary to tell her to stay away from a location, then she can stay with family. she has a job at a warehouse that she's held down for the last 3 years, Your Honor. And she asked the court to consider a signature bond or a very low surety bond.
Okay. Oh, just give me a moment. So, pretrial, first appearance, court action. In her felony case, 23 CP 224-547, she was granted a $5,000 split bond. So what portion of it was a pretrial bond?
I don't know. I have to pull up Odyssey. Hold on. What do you see before I pull it up?
Looks like, count 2 and count 6.
All right, hold on.
All right, it's all UJRPT, so there's no amount set forth.
Correct. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And, all right. So on this particular case, on the battery, it's going to be 2,500, and on the simple battery and against an officer is going to be 1,000. The total bond is going to be 3,500 surety bond. No further contact with Mr. Williams, no violent contact with any members of law enforcement. She is to stay away from the Motel 6 at 1377 Virginia Avenue. She's allowed to go back to that location one time only with a police officer. And she's going to behave very nicely with that police officer while he accompanies her to remove her belongings from Motel 6. That visit cannot exceed 30 minutes. Thank you. Oh, next court date is going to be October 15th. Courtroom 2, who do we have?
Number 12.
In courtroom 2, we will address position 7 in a breakout at the end of the calendar, please.
I got it.
Alex Sullivan is accused of theft of services from October 1st, 2024, accusation 24 CR 6793E. Mr. Sullivan, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
I got first, homeless.
All right. Miss Allen, do you agree?
Yes, I found no record.
All right.
Seems strange, but that is what I see.
No problem. And what's the state's recommendation?
One moment. We're asking for $1,000 SOB through pretrial to stay away from the location at 510 Piedmont Avenue Northeast. That's Poor Calvin's restaurant, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. The defendant went in to the restaurant yesterday, October the 1st. Police were called around midnight for a theft of services call. He was standing by and reported to the police that he had indeed ordered dinner and 2 drinks in the amount of $99.81. When asked to pay his bill, he opened up his wallet that was in his possession and said he had no cards, no cash, and no cell phone, and had no way to pay the bill. He's listed as homeless. He reported he'd been in the park nearby and maybe somebody had taken things out of his wallet. He did not understand why he had no money. Those are the facts, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. McLean?
No objection, Your Honor.
It's a $500 signature bond through the jail to stay away from this restaurant, I guess. What's it called now? 510 Piedmont Avenue?
Calvin's.
Oh, Poor Calvin's restaurant.
Calvin.
Okay, I remember that place. Okay, do not return to that restaurant, Mr. Sullivan. You have to provide us with a good mailing address to send you notice of your next court date. This is an open active case. If you get arrested again, the next time it will not be a signature bond. It will be a bond for which you would have to pay. So please remember to stay away from Poor Calvin's. Do not get arrested again, and we will see you in court in the future. Thank you.
Your Honor, he has the 160 Prior Street address of the clerk's office to which he should go.
All right.
Number 1, break.
This is State versus Jesse Bray, accused of theft by shoplifting from September 15th of this year. Accusation 24 CR 6791C. Mr. Bray, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
20. Last arrest was September 10th for shoplifting. It's 24 CR 006 406C. Appears to be on probation for armed robbery, 14 SC 124608. In 2014, it says 5 years confined, indeterminate, and 10 years probation. 2023 trespass conviction, 2022 disorderly conduct trespass conviction, and the 2022 fair evasion trespass conviction.
All right, thank you. Ms. Desiano?
Your Honor, this incident happened on September 15th at the Dollar Tree at 2630 MLK Junior Drive. The manager of the location witnessed the defendant take approximately $50 worth of hygiene products, place them into plastic bags, and walk out of the store without paying. He does have an open shoplifting case and apparently is on probation as well. We're seeking a $1,000 surety bond, a stay away from the Dollar Tree, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, my client does deny the allegations. However, we would have no objection to the state's recommendation.
$1,000 surety bond. Next court date is October 15th. We're going to address both these cases at the next SAP calendar, which will be this new one, as well as 24 CR 006 406C. And that will be on October 15th. He's to stay away from the Dollar Tree store. I can't remember the address. What was the address, Ms. Desiano?
2630 MLK Junior Drive.
Okay. You need to stay 200 yards away from that Dollar Tree store and 200 yards away from any other store with the name Dollar Tree on it. Thank you. No more Dollar Tree stores for you, at least until further order of the court.
Number 3, Barnett.
This is State versus Richard Burnett, 24 CR 6795J. Mr. Burnett, you have a new accused case stemming from a traffic incident on August 23rd, 2024. The 5 charges are promoting or organizing an exhibition of illegal drag racing or laying drag. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counts of that particular offense. You have been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Cook?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
2024 FTA. Open case out of DeKalb County, fleeing an officer, reckless driving, headlight violation, no passing zone violation. Open case out of Roswell, DUI, suspended license. A couple of probation violations from 2021.
Thank you. Ms.
This
Desiano?
is my case, Judge. This incident happened over the course of a couple of days from May 3rd to May 6th, 2024. The defendant was identified as the owner of an Instagram account that promotes and organizes these what they call takeovers that occur on public and private property. The Instagram account is called Baddies and Burnouts. It made several posts about takeovers that were occurring in various areas around Atlanta. The officers have noted that after these types of events occur at various locations, it tends to have a ripple effect that causes many more of these events throughout the surrounding areas in DeKalb and Fulton County. They're obviously very disruptive to the community and a big safety issue. The defendant is charged with 5 counts as it relates to 5 posts that he made over the course of the incident dates, organizing these takeovers. Many of the posts, he actually signed his name Rich, which is short for his first name, Richard. He did make more than 5 posts. However, the warrants relate to the 5 specific takeovers at addresses 1461 Moreland Avenue, 2 events at 2883 Lakewood Avenue, 850 Oak Street, and then 634 Whitehall Street. And the data dump from this Instagram account also shows several posts from these types of takeovers where there's people stunt driving and reckless driving and things of that nature. The defendant's license is interesting, also suspended for several failure to appears. It appears he also had a CDL at one point that's been revoked for repeated traffic violations, including several speeding, like super speeder, 30 to 50 miles over the speed limit, as well as his open cases, Your Honor. And he also has several FTAs in his driving history. I believe the last case I argued before you in this type of case, Your Honor, there was actually a pedestrian that was struck. These are very dangerous to the public and to the people that attend them. We are asking for a $10,000 surety bond. That would be $2,000 on each count, Your Honor. No driving without a valid license. We are asking that the court order the defendant to a curfew, perhaps more restrictive on the weekends, as that's when these events tend to take place more often. However, one of these events did actually take place on a Monday. We are also asking the defendant be equipped with an ankle monitor to monitor that curfew, and that he pay for it at his expense. Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Yes, sure. My client is 40 years old. He has a very modest income. He's a car detailer. Just with that in mind, we'd ask for the lowest possible surety bond. And beyond that, we would leave it in the court's discretion.
All right. Bond will be set at $10,000 surety, $2,000 on each count. He'll be no driving until further order of the court. So it doesn't matter whether his license or CDL is reinstated, no driving until further order of the court. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and he's subject to a curfew every day. He needs to be home by 6 p.m. and he's not to leave until, well, the curfew is going to be 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. He's going to be equipped with an ankle monitor, which will be for up to 6 months, and all monitoring expenses to be paid by the defendant. Next court date is going to be October 15.
Number 11.
11, okay. This is State versus Cedric Alexander Spires, accused of 2 counts of battery from October 1st, 2024. Accusations 24 CR 6804E. Mr. Spires, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean.
76.
All right. And
2023 vandalism. This is out of Tennessee. 2023 vandalism conviction. 2021 assault conviction. 2020 domestic assault. 2019 domestic assault conviction. 2018 resistant officer conviction. 2017 battery conviction. 2016.
That's good. That's good. Thank you very much. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred at a Kroger. This is the Kroger. I apologize for earlier. At a Kroger at about 1:25 p.m. This is at 275 Ponce de Leon Avenue on the 1st of October. It's reported that the defendant came into the location and met with employee Jasmine Standley, Standley. He inquired about an online order he'd made. When he was asked to show proof that he'd entered an online order because they were having problems locating it, and he couldn't verify the order, he refused. He spit on this employee and then struck her multiple times. She was observed to have visible injuries to her top of her head, as well as her upper left eye. The victim spoke with us today. She reported she'd never encountered the defendant before. We are asking for a $3,000 surety, Your Honor. No contact with Mrs. Jasmine Standley. And again, that is Standley, to stay away from the Kroger at 275 Ponce de Leon. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons. We'd also ask for a BHET, Your Honor. The defendant's criminal history, you heard just a tiny amount of it, but it's out of, for the most part, Florida. This is his first Georgia arrest. It includes too many to count assaults on law enforcement officers and felony level assaults, as well as obstruction and domestic violence assaults. This is an assault on a stranger. who has a right to feel safe where she goes to work, Your Honor. The Ayala factors, this being his first arrest here in Georgia, show that he doesn't have ties to this community. He was just in Tennessee in 2023 with a felony conviction, and has 20 or more arrests and convictions out of Florida since 1996. The risk to reoffend, the risk to the victim in this case, and the real risk that this defendant doesn't understand he can't return to the location is high, and it's a concern of the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, my client works at JMI Staffing, which is temporary or catch-all type of labor agency. He does that work steadily, despite the fact that it has temporary jobs. He sticks at it and stays with them, and that is his employment. He has served in the military, Your Honor. He was with the U.S. Army and has an honorable discharge. His Veterans Administration check is modest, and so he has a very modest income. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond or a low surety bond that he could scrape together with his VA check. His brother lives.
His brother lives here?
Yes, Your Honor. His brother lives here in Atlanta and has a 470 number listed on the 3 card, and so that's part of his community ties here. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Allen, according to the chat, there was a third charge for simple battery. Is the state going to NOD that charge?
No, Your Honor, that's a subsequent charge. I believe that calendar was created before that was received, and my understanding is that the litigation manager was informed. We've got spitting and multiple strikes with visible injuries on the top of the head and on the eye. There are 3 counts.
So let me see. Okay,
Looks like
so
the simple
count,
battery is
okay.
just not on the calendar.
Understood. So,
Thank you.
Mr. McLean, are you aware that this is a 3-count case now with simple battery?
Your Honor, despite I am now, but despite that, my comment says are as the overall bond request.
Okay. On count 1, count 2 is going to be $1,000 each, and count 3, simple battery, is going to be $500. The total is $2,500. This is a cash bond only. No further contact with Jasmine Stanley. Stay away from the Kroger store. Stay 500 yards away from the Kroger store at 275 Ponce de Leon Avenue. And no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And the next court date is October 15th. Thank you.
Can we do number 15?
Okay. I have someone on iPhone. Who is this person? And you need to start your video. Otherwise, we'll have to remove you from Zoom. All right. Ms. Champion, can you put iPhone in the waiting room, please? Yes, ma'am. Could you take the children away from the Zoom? This is a live stream proceeding, and I don't want. Okay. And what's your name, please?
I'm Jasmine Stanley.
Okay. So he's got a $2,500 cash bond. He's not allowed to have any contact with you, to stay 200 yards away from you, and he's required to stay 500 yards away from the Kroger where you work.
Okay.
All right, you're free to go. Thank you. I'm sorry, what was the next position for courtroom 2?
Number 15.
15, thank you. Damian Wright is accused of 4 misdemeanor offenses under accusation 24 CR 6800C. The charges are as follows: 2 counts of misdemeanor theft by taking, loitering and prowling, and 1 count of criminal trespass from August 29th, 2024. Mr. Wright, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. Mr. Howard?
Yeah, 30 total. Last arrest was in August. Possession of a firearm by convicted felon. Possession of a firearm during the commission. Possession of a controlled substance with intent. It's 24 PI 006124. On probation, possession of a firearm by convicted felon. 24 SC 001190. On probation and card for sale of marijuana. They gave him a 20-year sentence for that in 2015. On probation in the cab, possession of a firearm by convicted felon, theft by receiving obstruction. You want more? He went to
No.
FS court too.
I was about to stop you, but you got it. Thank you.
I don't know how much the bond is for the felony.
No
Just
bond.
Okay.
Miss Allen, what is your recommendation for Mr. Spires?
We're asking for, this is Mr. Wright, number 15.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, thank you. We're
Mr.
asking for a
Yeah.
$2,000 surety to stay away from the location. This is an incident that occurred at the residences at North Avenue. This is private property of Georgia Tech residence halls. The defendant seen on surveillance at 3:30 in the morning, going and removing scooters from where they're chained up and leaving the premises with them. 2 different scooters were taken on the same incident date. So we'd ask for a stay away from that location. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and no contact with the victims in this case, Mrs. Shen, S-H-E-N, and Mrs. Vu, V-U. I would note that he did go to felony first appearance today because along with the warrants from this incident in the end of September, he had active warrants for an August felony drug and possession of a firearm, as well as yesterday arrested for felony theft and possession of a firearm. He just pled guilty to 2 cases in May of this year and is under sentence for a simple assault out of Superior Court, 23 SC 191917, and possession of a firearm during the commission and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon in 24 SC 001190. So
When was that plea taken?
May the 16th, 2024. So released or under sentence and now has 3 more cases.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, he asked the court to set the bond as low as possible, $2,000. I believe he understands that. If it's $2,000 surety bond, Mr. Wright and I discussed the range given the number of cycles. So we would leave that in the discretion of the court.
So he was booked in on August 23rd of this year and then released on August 25th of this year on a $37,000 bond. And now these allegations stem from an August 29th incident, literally 4 days later, and also a October 1st felony incident.
Correct. And I should mention, he does work, Your Honor. He works for a van lines company, moving company.
Are you sure? He seemed pretty preoccupied otherwise. On the each count is going to be $1,000. That's a $4,000 surety bond. He might make it, but if he doesn't, we'll see him on October 15th. Stay away from all Georgia Tech property. And if you are released, please make sure you don't consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not allowed to own a firearm. Well, you already have that other case that will tell you that. All right, thank you.
Number 7.
That's now private counsel, is my understanding.
Oh, is that Mr. Schwartz?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh my goodness, you've been extremely patient, Mr. Schwartz. And
Sure.
we are going to go into a breakout for this one, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Liu, does he speak and understand English? I don't mean to be rude, I just want to be sure.
He does, Your Honor.
All right, so this is 24 CR 006796C. Mr. Ni Chin Liu and he's accused of a misdemeanor offense stemming from May 12, 2024. Mr. Liu, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. And you have a right to an attorney. Your counsel is going to be Mr. Gregory Schwartz. In addition to this, Mr. Howard, does he have any priors?
No.
Okay. Ms. Champion, if you could place, who is the prosecutor?
It's me, but we can both go ahead.
Well, let me just ask, is there anyone else in the courtroom?
No.
Okay. I do not know who these individuals are. Dr. Medina Jet, JDS,
That's a victim in a case.
for this one?
No, Your Honor, Jet.
Okay. Dr. Jet, I'm going to put,
Actually, a case we already heard. No,
all right.
never mind. It's position 13, victim in position 13. I'm sorry.
I think it's just easier to put the three of us in a breakup then. So it will be myself, Mr. Schwartz, and Miss Allen or Miss Desiano? Miss Desiano?
Both of us, please.
All right. Miss Champion, if you could please.
Pre-trial, position number 13 bond is posted.
Oh, okay. Thank you. What about 14? What's up with that?
It's gonna be, reset medical.
Does he have a bond on that card?
I don't have his card because
You
he's
don't?
not in.
Oh, okay. I need to see. I might have to do that bond surrender now. He might try to slip out of here. So this is the last case, right?
Yes. Do something.
Hmm?
Sergeant glance and say hello.
Somebody say hello.
He can hear you.
Is felony over?
Yes.
They are. Let's see. Thank you, Conley. Blunt, I ain't hear that. When you hear that?
Ms. Stuckey, I'm about to put you in the breakout room with the judge. Please accept the breakout room.
Blunt, what's the number of the courtroom to? The last four.
2060. 2060.
That's a new number. Hold on.
All right. Mr. Liu, based on the arguments that we addressed during the breakout session with your attorney present, this is going to be your bond at the present time. You are granted a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial services under level 3. You'll be required to report to pretrial services once a week. You are to have no further contact with Janice Stuckey. You're not to communicate with her either directly or indirectly, and in any way, form, or manner, including a third party, mail, email, phones, computers, and even on social media. You are to enroll and complete an SDE evaluation and submit yourself to any treatment that's required by the evaluator. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. You're also to stay away and not operate or conduct any business that involves massage parlors or health spas. You're to stay away from all these forms of businesses, including any that you may be employed in or which you own, until further order of the court. Your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. Please be sure that if you change your address, you let the clerk's office know. Mr. Schwartz, anything else, sir? No? Okay.
No, Your Honor, we have nothing further.
All right. Thank you. Free to go.
Position number 13, posted bond. Position number 14, medical reset.
Position number 13, posted bond, so that's further notice. And position 14 will be a medical reset to October 3rd at 2 p.m. Okay. I think that concludes the calendar then. Let's go over it. Position 1, Jesse Bray, is a $1,000 surety bond. Further notice to October 15th. Position 2 is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Position number 3 is a $10,000 surety bond, reset to October 15th with an ankle monitor. Position 4, Fleetwood, is a 2,500 surety bond, reset to October 15th. Position 5, Flowers, is a $6,000 surety bond, reset October 15th with an ankle monitor for 12 months. Position 6, Lily Howard, is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial with a DBIP requirement. Position 7 is a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. Position 8, Mathis, is a 3,500 surety bond, reset October 15th. Position 9, McLean, is a 1,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 10 is a $3,000 surety bond, reset date October 15th. Position 11, Spires, is a 2,500 cash bond only, reset date October 15th. Position 12, Sullivan, is a $500 signature bond through the jail. Position 13 is posted bond, further notice. Position 14 is a medical reset to tomorrow at 2 p.m. And position 15, Wright, is a $4,000 surety bond, reset date October 15th. Is that correct? All right, folks, you all have a good afternoon, and I will see you tomorrow at 2. Oh, no, at 9.
Thank you, Judge Law.
All right, take care.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
afternoon, everyone.